Thanks for tuning in to the Success Factor podcast. In today's episode, I interview Greg Mortensen. He's a neighbor of mine, a good friend of mine, and also someone who has tapped into a lot of different business opportunities and entrepreneurial type of approaches to making money as an attorney. He's got many years experience in the field, also many years practicing as an attorney. We get into some great topics during this interview. I had a lot of fun doing it. Definitely want to have him come back on the show because at the end of the interview, we certainly got into some pretty interesting topics. Overall, he shared some great insight, and I hope that you enjoy the show. Thank you. Thanks for coming, man.
You're welcome. Glad to be here.
It's good to finally do this.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
It's been like, 4 years in the making? Because
Probably.
Have we been neighbors 4 years?
Yeah.
It's crazy, dude.
Yeah.
Can't believe this is our fourth year. Do you know what I remember the most about you?
What?
I remember when I was moving in and you came down and helped. I was working downtown in Tempe and I was stuck at work. I couldn't get off. I had my boss at the time was wanting me to, sit there and I'm like, we're moving in, and had all these meetings. They didn't want to, have some flexibility. And you came down and you helped us move. I appreciate that.
Well, you're welcome. All I remember was there was one particular thing, I won't mention what it was, that was extremely heavy. And I was thinking someday I'm going to meet Trent. I hadn't even met you then, and ask for payback. And you have helped out a lot. So I was happy to do it.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, and it's crazy how time flies. I mean, it seems like just yesterday, but...
Well, we were the first people in this neighborhood.
Yeah. So,
our houses, so we kind of watched everything else grow up around us, and not just our own neighborhood, but this whole area.
Yeah.
So it does seem like we're long timers now, even though it's not that many years.
I know, it's crazy.
Yeah.
This place is growing, man. Queen Creek is I was reading the other day, it was rated top 5 or top 6 in the nation for growth, something like that.
I believe it.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
I mean, it is maddening. It's like everyone is just flocking to Queen Creek.
When I moved here, you probably got the same thing, but everyone was saying, why in the world would you go down to Queen Creek?
Yeah.
That's so far away from Phoenix.
Yeah.
And you're like, wait a minute. First of all, everywhere I've ever been, it was a half hour to an hour drive to get to anything, whether it was California or even in Idaho.
Yeah.
It seemed like, so to me, this was it's a nice place, a little bit more out in the open, out kind of where you still had some farms and some stuff around.
Yeah.
That's not the case anymore. Now we're in the middle of downtown, or that's what I always say is we will be, even if we're not quite there, but we're getting there fast.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
It does feel like we're in a metropolitan,
yeah.
like a proper city,
Whereas
before, I remember when we first moved here, there was a lot of farmland, open land, clear roads. Now it's like traffic just going downtown Queen Creek. It's crazy.
It is, although coming from California, we have no right to complain about anything for traffic.
It's crazy.
So I'll take this traffic any day.
Yeah. And it's nice that I get to work from home too. And you work from home for the most part. So
I do. Let me silence my phone. Sorry about
no worries.
that.
I think I got mine on silent too. Yeah, I got mine on silent. Yeah, you work from home, I work from home. I could not imagine going and commuting to Tempe like I did when I first moved here. That would be a nightmare because the traffic is more than doubled.
When I go down to California to go to our plant or go to other things down there, it is just amazing what the difference of traffic is. And I remember, as a lawyer down there, commuting, depending on what time of day it was, how much the traffic was. If traffic was light, wasn't that bad of a commute. If it was bad, 25 minutes could turn into an hour and a half, 2 hours, which is just really absurd. And you add that onto the number of hours that you're working during the daytime, which is really what you're talking about. And all of a sudden you have 2 jobs. I have a job as a driver and a job as whatever my job was.
What you're doing, what again? You're doing a water business of some sort? What's it called?
It's called Perfect Empowered Drinking Water. Okay. So I formed this company about 14 years ago, and we sell exclusively right now through Amway. And it's been a really great thing. It's interesting. I didn't really like chemistry in high school. I didn't know anything about that, but it just kind of dropped in my lap, and it's been great. I really enjoy the business and really pretty much all aspects of it.
That's cool. What makes the product better than all the other bottled waters?
We have a secret ingredient that's proprietary. I call it our Kentucky Fried Chicken, secret herbs and spices. But we have some special minerals and electrolytes that we put in and a process that helps to, for some people, helps to increase their blood oxygen level under stress, which is really pretty incredible. And just generally it makes people feel better. I used to go and talk and try to explain, what the differences are, and I can still do that for people, but I really learned pretty early on, I don't care what the studies are, I don't care if it works for 1 million people. If it doesn't work for you, you're not going to buy it.
Yeah.
If it works for you and it doesn't work for everybody else in that 1 million people, then that's great.
Yeah.
And fortunately, now with 14 years of track record, a lot of people find that it's different than any other water. You can taste the difference. You could feel the difference when you drink it. I know a lot of the Amway IBOs, they just tell people, you know what, get a case, half case, whatever, go and drink it. Drink only that for a week and then go back to your other water and tell me how you feel. Even just the taste, everything else is like, whoa, wait a minute, what went wrong? So,
did you guys do science experiments or any kind of lab work or any kind of human trials or anything to substantiate your guys' water claims versus the other?
Yes, but we're careful about making claims. First of all, because Amway is very conservative.
Yeah.
So they don't want a lot of claims out there. And again, in terms of just substantively what it does, well, there are things that we do have some testing on that show some improvement. We haven't done any clinical that Amway has allowed us to release yet.
Okay.
We've done some clinicals, but again,
nothing that you can release or talk about.
Right.
Okay.
And it's more just because Amway is very conservative.
Yeah.
So,
I get that. I mean,
yeah, like I say, people who use it, you'll know for yourself. And but we do have an ingredient in there called MBO, which stands for molecularly bound oxygen. And,
molecularly bound oxygen.
Right. And anyway, that's where the MBO came from.
Interesting.
But so we put a special ingredient in there. We make that off premises. We don't do that at the bottling plant so that we can keep control of it. It's proprietary, and it's something we believe in. And obviously now, after 14 years of success and plenty of other waters out there that people could buy instead of ours, we've found something that really works.
Wow. That sounds pretty cool. I've never heard of MBO before.
Well, you know where to get it. Come on down to my house and I'll give you the demo.
I need it. So, okay, I totally want to hit you up on that because I think that would be a cool experiment just to try.
That would be great.
Drinking that, all day. Now, have you guys looked into non-drinking water options to put your chemistry, your approach, your, patent or whatever into, I'm thinking shower heads, tap water, whole house system, stuff like that?
It wouldn't be practical to do that right now with our process. Yes, we've looked at a lot of other options, and there's some that I'm looking at right now that I won't discuss that are just, I'm always trying to think, how can we use this? How can we benefit the people who like our water and where this technology may actually have a value for people?
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
So, yeah.
Now, did you come up with this yourself? Do you have a business partner?
I am a genius.
I know you are.
So the answer is no, not totally.
Okay.
I'm a lawyer. That's what I did. I knew how to put this thing together. I know how to run companies. I know how to do some of that. But I was not a chemist. So most of the technology we got from somebody else. We bought some of it. But we combined, me and a couple of partners and some really good people that work for us, combined some different technologies and basically came up with what we thought at the time and still think is pretty much the best of whatever water technology is out there. So people have all kinds of stuff they're talking about, the pH water, the pH plus, pH negative, neutral, all of those. Everybody has some reason why they want people to do their water.
Yeah.
And in the end of the day, most of those are stories. I'm not saying they don't have any value, but you kind of have to pick and choose what you want. Nobody has our MBO. So
in a day where there is literally millions of options for bottled water, right?
Yep.
Millions of options, millions of different products. I think you got to differentiate yourself away from the competition. One of the things I will tell you, which blew me away, and I don't know if there was like a certain science to it or a certain like, I didn't do any experiments, but Christy and I went to Iceland. Oh boy, it's probably been 3 years ago. And that was amazing. So the entire island, have you been to Iceland?
No, I haven't.
Okay, so
I heard actually that's the green land, not the ice land, depending on what time of year you go.
Yes, Greenland is ice, and Iceland is green, depending on when you go.
Right.
Well, black, I would call it, because...
Did you go in the summer?
We went in the fall, after the summer rush. It was...
But still before it was really cold.
Oh, totally. Yeah. I mean, we had a camper van, and that's the way to do it.
Oh, wow.
You just fly in, rent the camper van, and you load up with groceries and whatever, and you just cruise around.
Go to Iceland.
You cruise around, and there's so many places to just pull over and park and camp. There's so many different little parking spots and campgrounds, and they're pretty inexpensive. But like some of the spots we went to, you don't. It's nighttime when you pull in, and so you're thinking, all right, here's this cool place to call it a night. Pull in, set up the camp, and call it a night. You wake up in the morning, and you got, in some cases, we had sheep roaming around us, around the camper van, waterfalls behind you, and you're just blown away by the beauty. It's amazing. But the one thing I will tell you, which made me think of this, is the water is incredible. It is all glacier melt.
Yep.
The entire island has the same water. It is, well, because the entire island was made out of volcanic eruption. And so you have a ton of black, like volcanic rock. Most of the beaches are this very fine, like pumice type sized black ash that's been rubbed off. The rock, I should say, it's been rubbed into very, very small little granulars. And the entire like ocean or beach, the entire ocean like surface that merges with the land is all this fine black sand. It's really cool. But it filters the water.
It does, yes.
All the waterfalls, you can literally almost just drink out of them. All the farmhouses tap right into the waterfalls. You go to a restaurant, you go wherever, and you drink the same water, and it is incredible tasting. You can buy it here. They bottle it and ship it. Right. But it is incredible. It just has this unique taste that is unlike anything I've ever experienced.
Minerals create a lot of the taste. I grew up in Idaho. For me, I historically like the taste of that kind of water up there. Fiji kind of has that type of a taste for me, just, from where they get the source of the water. But I like our water better now.
Good. I got to try it.
What? I can make that happen for you.
I'm going to have to hit you up on that. So how long have you been an attorney? What made you go into the attorney route?
So when I was in 9th grade, I had a social studies teacher who was kind of a charismatic guy. And he had a good time coming to us and telling us in class different law scenarios. Like I remember him talking about, a swimming pool. So if a little kid climbs over your fence and gets in your swimming pool and dies, you could be liable as the homeowner.
Yeah.
And I just remember thinking, that's not fair. As you get older, you kind of understand more parameters and perspectives. And then they had us take a test for one of those aptitude tests, like you do when you're in school. It's something that might be good for your career. And one of the things that I scored high on was abstract reasoning. And then you look, and it gives you, if you like or did well in this category, you potentially could be good in this career. And one of the ones was lawyer. And I thought, hey, that's great. Because I remember seeing in movies and stuff that lawyers were sitting in their office and putting. And they had a beautiful secretary. And they dictated, putted in their office, and then they took off the afternoon to go play golf. I thought, yeah, this sounds really good, and supposedly they made a lot of money. So that was kind of the start of it. But as I went through high school, I liked debate and liked speaking, and the more that I did, just never changed. It just seemed to be a really good fit, and stuck with it.
So do you take off the afternoons and putt in your office today?
No, but I could.
Have you done that most of your career?
No. I found, if you ask most attorneys, we're all too busy.
Yeah.
So it's, I thought it was deceptive advertising, frankly, about an attorney's life. Attorneys are very busy, and because you bill by the hour, that's typically, there are attorneys, obviously, that have contingency fees and other ways to make money. But
Yeah.
anyway, it was a rude awakening. Now, my brother, the dentist, he takes off and plays golf every Friday. And one of my classic things was we were playing golf one day, and he got a phone call. And you've heard the old thing, just tell him to go home and take an aspirin. I'll talk to you in the morning.
Yeah.
Literally on the green in the golf course, he gets a phone call, and he's like, just take 2 aspirin and call me in the morning. Are you kidding? This is reality.
That's
So
pretty funny.
So in some respects, I may have chose the wrong profession.
Yeah.
But I couldn't do what he does.
Yeah. I couldn't do that either. I thought about going to law school myself back when I was in undergrad. I thought about it. I was going to, but I changed my mind. I don't know why, but I just, it's a lot of like reading, writing, understanding, interpreting laws, figuring out angles, figuring out, ways to just debate or help someone understand and interpret a law or a provision or a case or something like that, or case study. I just didn't, that just kind of bored me.
And I think that's really the key is it interesting to you? Is it boring to you? Do you have an affinity for you just in the way that your mind works?
Yeah.
For me, I had worked as an accountant in between undergrad and law school, which to me was absolute boredom. There was a satisfaction in being able to do a spreadsheet, a tax return, have them all balanced and everything. And I'm really grateful for that accounting experience. But that, if I ever had any questions about being a lawyer, cemented it for me, because I absolutely knew I didn't want to be an accountant long term. When I went to law school, I never had a bad day in 3 years of law school, which is really pretty remarkable. I had some days that were better, but I was so excited to be in law school, and it just fit. All the stuff that you're talking about, to me, that wasn't work, wasn't really, tedium. And in all candor, I probably shouldn't admit this, but for me, I had more time to golf in law school than I've had since.
That's pretty interesting.
Yeah. So the first year they tell you can't work or you shouldn't work because it's so busy, and you watch these movies, and it can be. It can be really horrific with things, but I got a habit pretty early on in my life of getting up really early in the morning. So I would get up at 3, 4 in the morning, and I would read my cases before law school. I'd go to law school. Typically I was done with class by noon, 1 o'clock, something like that.
Wow.
And I'm bored out of my, bored to tears, because I'd go over to, they had a music room at the university. I'd go over and have them put on records. They had these really big speakers that were, you like big speakers? I know.
Oh, totally.
We both
like my Bose, F1 system.
Right, exactly. So anyway, to me it was really fun, and then I was able to do other things, and I didn't worry about it at night like a lot of people did.
Yeah.
So anyway, for me, it wasn't really hard, and it wasn't painful.
Where did you grow up?
So I grew up in Idaho Falls. I was born in Denver, but I grew up in Idaho Falls, Idaho. We moved there when just a couple of months or a couple of weeks before he turned 8 years old.
Yeah. Were you on a farm?
No, but I thought I was.
Doing a lot of work?
No. Yeah, they gave me a little bit of work. We were city slickers.
Okay.
Such as it is in Idaho Falls.
Idaho Falls, right?
Right, exactly.
See, I grew up in Southern California, and so when you talk about city slickers, I'm thinking, the concrete jungle of Southern California, from Corona all the way out past LA, but...
So moving from Denver was obviously more metropolitan. When we flew in, they had an old airport there in Idaho Falls, and the terminal was an old log cabin structure. And I remember,
really?
I remember flying in. It's still there, or at least it was the last time I saw. They don't use it anymore. They have the new terminal, and all the modern amenity type of stuff. But yeah, I remember landing there and thinking, "Oh boy, I'm in the mountains. I'm going to be a cowboy."
That's pretty cool, man.
So it was kind of fun. It was a great place to grow up.
Yeah.
My family was really blessed to be able to go there.
It's interesting how, I think about where I grew up, and I go back. I mean, it's been, 22 years since I've lived. No, maybe 23 years since I've lived in Southern California. But it's amazing when I go back and visit just how much it's changed. the entire world has changed, and it's just gotten crazier, more complex, scarier. Coming off the pandemic, now it seems like we got a mental health crisis in our country that's not really being addressed. But when you go back to Idaho Falls, what stands out to you the most, or have you even been back?
So I moved back to Idaho. I was in, I'll try to go fast forward through this. So I finished high school in Idaho Falls, went to college, and was a couple of places on a mission, and then came back and basically lived in Utah. Then after law school, I went to California. I was there for 17, 18 years.
What part?
Newport Beach.
Okay.
Yeah, Southern California, Orange County, the garden spot.
Yeah, that's a beautiful spot.
Tough job, but somebody had to do it.
Yeah, twist your arm. Why'd you leave?
Well, that is a great question. One that I wish I could go back, maybe 30 or 40 years ago and say, but it's part of life. I had a family. I just felt like we were supposed to leave, and we moved to Idaho, not to Idaho Falls. We moved to a little town called Tetonia, which is on the other side on the west side of the mountain from Jackson Hole, Wyoming. So we basically had a very similar climate, looking out at the Grand Tetons, and it was an interesting life.
Well, I mean, that's beautiful country.
It's beautiful, but let me just say it is cold, and I grew up with snow in Idaho Falls and shoveling snow. In Tetonia, they call Idaho Falls the balmy climate. So that kind of tells you everything you need to know.
So you were out there, you had to have a snowblower or something.
Oh yeah, so that was one of the first things I got when I moved to Tetonia. It wasn't big enough.
Yeah, you probably need a tractor with like a snowblower attachment or something.
Well, I went through a lot while I was there. So I was there, I think, 14 years. And,
okay.
However big it is, it's not big enough. Was kind of my attitude. I'm one of these guys that, you see these tractors out in places. We actually saw them on the farms and things. They're out there with 8 wheels, 8 tires. They sit like 20 feet off the ground. Big monster, manly, tractor. I wanted one of those with a monster snowblower on it just to do my little driveway.
I had a neighbor in Draper, Utah that had one.
Oh, did.
And one year we had a horrible winter. People were snowed in, a couple days actually, on a few of the storms. And this person was retired, lived down the street from us, and he had one of those big, like Caterpillar or John Deere tractors, proper size,
right.
With the ability to put all attachments on. He had a double snowblower attachment in the front.
Yep.
And he would go around and hit up all the neighbors' houses so they can get out. That thing was amazing. He would clear a driveway, like a standard driveway, in not even a minute.
They can move a lot of snow.
Yeah.
I learned a lot about snow removal, more than I probably ever want to know. And, if you're up there in that area, so we weren't even in the town. Well, the town of Tetonia is nothing to speak of. I think it was like 135 people,
That's crazy. Why did you pick that place?
That is a whole...
I mean, what led you to a small 150, 120 populated small town in Idaho?
The initial word that comes to my mind is insanity, but that's not true. It was a great place. We really loved it, but it just felt like, I guess I had an idea to do this project, to do like a really high-end resort with limited rooms and stuff. And so I was looking at properties around, and there was a really nice property up there. But when we got there, I just kind of felt like, we're supposed to move here. I don't know why. So in California, I remember being at a baseball game for my son, Little League game. There had just been a shooting of the postal workers, and we had helicopters flying over our field, trying to look for the bad guy. And the economy was going south in the early 90s. Some of my clients who were really very wealthy and very successful real estate developers were starting to lose properties. And it was kind of just a different time. And my house was too small for the kids that we were getting. It was a nice house, and I guess I could have got something else. But so we just decided, it'd be good to go raise our family there in Idaho. And so we did.
That's crazy. It's interesting you say the shooting and the economy changing. I feel like that's what's happening now.
It is.
I feel like the economy's shifting. Look at cryptocurrency. It's similar to like what happened with 2006, 2007 really. You started to see huge like cracks in the social or financial or economic foundation.
Right.
And you're seeing it now. And, you know, you have the Texas shooting, which is crazy. I don't know where it's going to go, but it doesn't seem, and we have political turmoil. We have Russia and Ukraine. We have China posturing in Taiwan, doing military drills, you know, and right around Taiwan. Like, where does this world go from here?
You know what? I don't think anybody really knows. It's hard to predict, and for a lot of people, hard to have hope. I think you have to have something that, for yourself, that gets you through it, whether it's your religion or whatever beliefs you have. At the end of the day, I personally believe there's something more than just this life.
Yeah.
You know, people don't. I don't know how they make it if you don't.
Yeah.
You know, I would go out and commit Harry Carey, not really, but I'd be asking, where's the Harry Carey knife? But,
that's a good point, though, because so many people are struggling. So many people are lack the hope and faith that there is life after this existence, this life. There's something after this life. And if you don't have that, I mean, man, it would be, it reminds me of like, have you seen the movie Greenland?
I don't think I have.
I forgot. I think it was Gerald Butler on it. I think it was Gerald Butler. He's a good actor.
I like him.
It was basically this meteorite coming to hit Earth, and it was going to be this like massive extinction level event. And certain people had this system where if an event like that happens, you get notified, go to this military base, and they fly you to Greenland, where there's this massive bunker that you can live there for, you know, like a year or something.
Right.
And that's eventually what happened, right? To give the movie away. But the preview came up.
Yeah, I was going to run home and watch it. You completely spoiled it for me, Trent.
Sorry. So, but the preview came on, and my kid was, you know, watching it, and he was asking me about it, and he was asking me like, you know, seems like end of the world, doomsday type stuff, you know. And I'm like, you know, what's interesting about that? And these movies all tap into that. It's this fear emotion they touch,
right,
which you hear all over the place. There's this constant like media focus on fear. You see it in Hollywood, you see it on all the big media outlets, you see it in the politics, like Biden just saying the other day there's going to be a food scarcity, whatever, shortage in 10 weeks. Everyone's hitting that fear emotion. But when you have faith, and like my response to him was, you know what, if I was in that movie and that was coming, I'd go play, you know, water basketball with you in the backyard, and I would just wait until that moment comes when 90% of population dies, because that's our time to go. Like, I'm not going to be afraid of that, because there's so much more after this life.
I totally believe that. So it's interesting, when I was at BYU, they had all kinds of speakers come. And one of the guys that came was a guy named Moody. Can't remember his first name, but he wrote a book about life after life or something like that. I remember him coming and speaking, and it really impacted me. So I went and got the book, and kind of started me on this interest, for lack of a better word, of just reading as many of those stories as I can. I picked up some of them, and I've had to put them down because I either didn't believe they were really true, or they didn't leave me with anything positive. You know, why do I want to read a book that's going to make me feel horrible? You know, that's just, I don't see a purpose. But I kind of walked away with the same thing. So I always had that belief anyway, but having somebody that had actually researched and had all of these experiences from people of all different religions all over the world that had similar experiences was really fascinating to me. And then I had a dear friend of mine that got in an auto accident my last year of law school, and ended up losing their life. And I went and visited the hospital. I couldn't see her because she was in intensive care. And but I remember thinking at the time, I'm so anxious for you to come back and tell me, did you have one of these near-death experiences, and tell me about it. So for me, I have the same belief that you do. First of all, everybody dies. You know, the old adage, nobody gets out of life alive, is just the way it is.
Right. And
the older you get, you kind of hope you don't live forever. Eventually, when I die, I don't have to pay any more bills.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, that's It's not all bad.
Move on.
Yeah, exactly. So,
I mean, and life and the world we have around us is actually, it's becoming more and more like difficult to live in, more and more, stressful. A lot more anxiety, a lot more worry, a lot more stress, just worries about raising, like I have 5 kids, raising kids. And so it's easier to think that when you die and you move on and you have a more joyous life after this life forever, that's more attractive. So why would you be afraid of that?
I totally agree. I understand people may not be able to prove it, and so they don't choose to do that.
Yeah.
But for me, I don't really have any doubt that will happen. And, if people want to know, I think you can have your own experiences that can give you your own confirmation that there really is something, there. I've already had a brother that's passed on, my parents, family members. I personally believe they're on the other side praying for me just like they were here. And to me, that gives me a lot of hope. If other people don't believe it, hey, that's part of life. You get to choose. You get to believe what you want to believe.
You can, and there's so many different beliefs out there. But and I think, worst case scenario, you just have to have hope and faith. Hope that there is something else. And so the fear that they want us to have and to constantly inundate us with is not something that should have any power over us.
Hope allows you to move forward.
True.
People need to have a reason, some excitement.
Yeah.
For me, I'm still a very creative person. That was one of the things that I loved about doing this water business, was I got a chance to really be creative, including kind of helping to write the script of, what we're going to put on our bottle. Kind of how we sell it and market it. And while I don't claim to be the genius who came up with all of the scientific things, I was able to know or see a good thing when I saw it, and able to combine this and that and put it together and create something that we really think is unique. But that part of the business to me is the most exciting. And if you don't have that, if you don't have something to keep you going, something, that's exciting for you, as I've been working on my house and
your backyard's amazing.
Well, we're getting there.
You have the nicest backyard in our hood.
Well, thank you. Yours is pretty nice, Trent.
We enjoy it, but yours is pretty nice, man.
Well,
you got a lot of amenities packed into you've maximized your space really well.
I think we've shoehorned in about as much as I could shoehorn in.
You got almost every activity you can think of back there. So it's good.
Don't come over for the next week because I got another construction project.
What are they doing now?
So I just put some planters in back behind the pool.
Where the wall is?
Yeah.
High up, or like what do you do?
Halfway up the wall.
Okay.
So I was going to have some big pots, like hotel pots, to put some palm trees and stuff in.
Yeah.
I had them just in the pots from the nursery and trying to decide what to do. And after looking at it for a while, I decided to do that. And then, as you know, my tile has like an iridescent to it.
Yeah.
Iridescence. So when the sun hits it, it actually sparkles like jewels. I mean, it is multiple colors and bright and just bling everywhere. So I've got this lighting guy that he's going to come over at night, and he'll stay as long as it takes to figure out where to put some lights on my, infinity edge wall that can bring out that bling at night.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, permanently.
Really?
So all I have to do
like
is
a flip of a switch?
Yep.
That's pretty cool.
That's all it is.
When is he coming over? I want to come over and hang out with him.
I'll let you know. He's already come a couple of times just to kind of look at it and get a feel. So as soon as we get the rest of the planters in, then he'll come over and we'll get the wiring done.
That's pretty cool.
I originally thought, so what I'd really like is, the lighting bars that they have for stage, for drama.
They're like wall wash it lights.
Yeah, well, hey, listen, you're the guy I always look down the street and say, okay.
I do have quite a few wall wash lights. I have like 15 of them or something.
If I want to know how to light, go ask Trent. But this is a little specialized because they have to pinpoint it.
Yeah.
A little bit more narrow beams.
Yeah.
But my original idea was just, hey, I'll just put up one of those cool, light bar things that they have on the stage, and I can pick any color, anywhere, spot whatever, and it's going to be a little more specialized than that now, but
that's pretty cool.
Yeah, well, hopefully it'll work out. That's, again, just kind of the excitement of giving you something to do, and the planning and thinking and all of that.
I think about my backyard a lot, and there's so many things I want to do too. But it's like I have to balance putting money into the house and the backyard versus pursuing and helping build other passions like this podcast, right? So I have the active cast that I'm starting. I have a couple episodes recorded, and so that's kind of fun. But that requires like unique mounts, unique camera angles, unique audio. Like in the past, I had the studio set up so that you had a typical podcast headphone and microphone, and now I got these wireless ones, right? We don't have the headphones because we're just really having a conversation, and I don't really see like the benefit. There is a benefit when you can hear your voice.
Maybe. When
you're on the podcast, without question. It is a different type of recording because you could hear your voice. You know when to interrupt, when not to interrupt. But this is kind of an experiment for me. So I like putting money into that too because I'm passionate about it. And it requires a lot of tech.
It's part of the creativity, all of those things that go into it, and absolutely.
So it's fun. And you, like what you said, you got to have something like that to ground you and to motivate you in life. Because if you don't have something that you're passionate about and you don't got something to keep you going, it can be a really boring and stressful life. You need something to look forward to.
I can't imagine. I remember reading an article years and years ago when Russia was still under communism, before the fall of the Iron Curtain, and talking about people in the workplace. And there was one guy that could produce a ton of product. He was so fast at it and so good. He could produce more in one day than the entire rest of the shift could produce in like a week. And somebody talked to him and said, why don't you do this? And he said, because everybody else in the factory came to me and got mad because I was making them look bad. I wasn't trying to make them look bad. I was just
excited.
Well, yeah, and I had, for whatever reason, I had that talent. And when suddenly that's taken away, can you imagine how boring that would be? So I got to go to Russia just right after the Berlin Wall came down, and when things started opening up. It was a real eye-opening experience. Actually got to go to Germany then too. And
that's pretty cool.
It was really cool to kind of look and see.
Yeah.
So in Germany, we went in West Germany, and then we went over on the East German side, which has basically just been freed. And it's interesting to just feel the feeling of the people. You could feel the freedom versus, people that had just been kind of tramped down and put under a thumb and all those other things. The buildings were different. You could feel when you walked in them, everything was different. Same in Russia when I was there. But anyway, those are really, really interesting experiences to go there.
Wow, that's pretty cool. I think it's interesting because society, lately I've been pondering, like, and you made me think of this with that guy, society has this like standard expectation of production or work ethic or, going to school and becoming the average, becoming just fold into society, whatever the overall societal construct is. Look at it as like a train. Everyone's on this train and they're moving forward, and they want you to just get on the train with them. There are some nuances between cars and stuff like that, right? But society's moving forward, however fast or however slow it is, but like they don't favor those who want to go ride a horse alongside the train, or those who want to fly a plane alongside the train, or those who would like to hike through the mountains and then get there way later. They don't favor that. And so they want everyone to be like them and get on the train. And so when you stand out and you're unique and you come up with some creative approaches, you tend to get criticized for that.
Those are good examples. I was just thinking, your daughter and your wife just did that beautiful musical number.
Oh yeah, at church. Yeah.
That I got to hear.
They did a great job.
Oh, they did a fantastic job. So I was sitting there thinking, my dad had me take piano lessons, and my piano teacher fired me.
Why did he?
That's a true story, by the way. He was a really good pianist, and my dad just wanted me and my brother to be able to play the piano. My sister was good at it. I had no talent and no interest. And he made us stick with it for like a year or 2 years or something. And the piano teacher finally came to my dad. He said, "George, I can't take your money in all honesty anymore.
Why?
He said, Greg has no talent and no interest. I was interested in the drums, and my brother Andy had talent but wouldn't practice.
That's pretty funny.
And he said, I can't do it. And my dad begged him to take his money. So he kept us on for another 6 months or something, and finally he couldn't take it anymore and he moved. So
that's pretty funny. That reminds me, I remember I was sitting down with my sister Melissa, and I was probably like 19, and I was trying to get her, she's a singer, so I was trying to get her to teach me how to sing. And, because I had no musical experience at all in my youth. And I still don't, and that'll be a tip of how this went. But I'm sitting down with her, and she's like, all right, I'm going to play the piano, play some notes. I'm going to have you sing a little bit. And she fired me right away. She's like, yeah, you have no pitch, no tone, no awareness to shift your voice in pitch and tone. You can't pick up on the notes. And she's like, you just don't have a musical ear. Like you can't appreciate and understand the shifts with the music, and you're just singing a straight voice. So and I'm like, okay, so is there any hope? And she's like, pretty much no. I'm like, okay, so I won't sing anymore.
In Idaho, they call that, you could tell the difference of the cowboys who rode horses and the farmers who drove on tractors. The cowboys can sing because they can hear themselves. The guys on the tractors can't tell a darn thing. And this kind of leads me back to what I was starting off about when I was watching your wife and your daughter. I was just thinking, those are wonderful talents. And thinking about my own children. My own children don't have those particular musical talents. And I was thinking, one of the greatest things to me about having children, it's been like having a Christmas present that never gets old. They're born, they're cute little babies. You don't even know anything about them when they first come out. And as a dad, I used to go over to the crib or bassinet and have to put my ear down and see if they were even breathing to figure out if they were, still alive. And then as they start, getting a few months old, they start to develop a little personality or things, and you see different things. And then even in the teenage years, they start doing things, and then they start getting some talents and noticing what their talents are. Well, if you look at everybody, and you've had, children, every one of your kids have different talents.
Yep.
We didn't do anything about it. They just seem to come that way.
Yeah.
And to me, it's like opening a Christmas present. Oh man, my son, my daughter had this talent. I didn't know that. You can, as I'm sure you've done with your daughter, you've fostered that. You tried to give her lessons and, encourage the things. But where you were a failure singing, I was a failure with the piano. You still have to have some basic that, some affinity. So if you look at all of mankind, everybody has a talent. Some people have a talent of uplifting people, bringing a smile to their face. Some people have a talent of work. Some people, all kinds of different talents. And all of them together, if you could be in a peaceful environment, they just add to the tapestry of life. So instead of the example that you gave of all being on one train, moving at the same speed, in exactly the same place, what a different world it is if people can actually utilize their talents and be appreciated, and we can appreciate them. The great artists, the great musicians, everything that's there. And so I've gained a greater appreciation of that as I've gotten older and just been able to see, if you will, with maybe different eyes.
I think that's a recipe to success, because I was going to ask you how you define success. And, well, let's start with that. So how do you define success in life?
I'm sure that's a different answer for everybody. For me personally, I wanted to have success in the things that I think are most important in my life. So for me, I wanted to be able to raise my children, wanted to be able to provide for them. I want to do something with my career where I have some talent and where I feel I can be a benefit to people while also making enough money to be able to support my family, and where I can be true to my values, to my morals. I think if we try to take only one measure of success, like money, then we really are skewed, because you could be successful in one area, but it doesn't define who you are. So for me in my own life, I've taken more of a well-rounded, if you will. I don't know if that's the right thing. I've just tried to stick true to who I am, and I hope when I leave this earth that somebody can say, you know what, I really love that guy. He impacted me.
Yeah.
I hope my children could say that. I hope with my law career that somebody was in need. And I always say there's two kinds of lawyers. There are lawyers who are good lawyers, and there are lawyers who are good at making money. And very seldom are those two the same. I was a good lawyer. I was not particularly successful at making money, not that I didn't make money, but I was like most lawyers. I just made a living. I didn't, get rich from it. It was a decent living, but it was just a living. And I worried month to month, like most people do, if I was going to have business, if people were going to pay their bill and all the other stuff. And for me, when people came to me and couldn't pay, I would help them. That was just me. And looking back, I'm sure some people would say, well, Greg, you were a big failure because you didn't, you were a lawyer. You had the ability to do this. Money was never, oh my God, it just, it was a tool.
That's a really good perspective. I appreciate that. Because everyone is different and everyone has uniqueness about them. And knowing who you are and knowing what you stand for and what motivates you is really important. And you got to stick to that. And the more you stick to that in anything you do, it's a recipe to success. Because I think one of my cousins actually is starting a new business, and he's a big outdoor person. He loves to find solitude and balance and going outdoors and just connecting with nature and de-stressing. And he takes amazing photography, photos, and he's an extreme athlete too. So he loves to go and do really high vertical climbs, especially dusk or dawn, and capturing amazing moments with sunrise and sunset. And I'm like, dude, you're like the next Ansel Adams.
Right,
you need to go out there and capitalize on this because you're passionate about it. It's the essence of who you are. And he just told me the other day, and it got me so excited, that he's doing something like that. He's aligning those passions and interests into going out and helping others appreciate being outdoors and connecting spiritually, physically, mentally with nature and getting away from the noise and the fog of life. And so he's creating a whole platform out there to kind of help people do that. And I'm like, that's why you're going to be successful, because you're aligning your passion, your hobby, your interest, your therapy, all around a way and a mechanism to connect with unlimited amount of people. You're gonna succeed, and that's the key to success. Be true who you are, know who you are, and go out there and do something that you're passionate about and you really believe in.
I heard something one time which has always stuck with me. So there was a young scientist, a genius guy, and his dad was a brilliant scientist, and they were working together, and they were out there on the chalkboard, doing the Einstein thing with the big formula and the chalk all over, and had to leave and go do other things. And they came back a week later, and the dad said to his son, so if you solved this problem, well, in the last week while we weren't working on it, and his son was like, no, you can't even solve it. It's like, well, have you been thinking about it? No. And his dad said something brilliant. He thought his dad was going to chew him out or something. His dad said, if you want to be happy in life, figure out what it is that you think about when you don't have to think. And that's what you want to do with your life. And that's really what you're talking about, is you found your passion, you found a talent, something that was you. And, I hope that our world and our environment allows people to be that, to have those things that motivate them and to be able to succeed. This may be completely off the subject, but as a lawyer, I've seen, and even as an accountant and just a human being, I've seen people make money in lots and lots of different ways. Almost anybody can make money with what their passion is, if they really like their passion enough and want to do it. You may make more, you may make less, but at the end of the day, when they die, if they do just like what you're talking about, and Ansel Adams was a great example. Amazing photographer, amazing
photographer.
Yeah, that is well known just because he found something that he liked doing.
Yeah.
Somebody else would have said, "That's it, brother. You have missed life." But so.
And it's interesting. Wow, it gives me a lot of thoughts. But most people don't find that until later in life.
Yeah.
It's not, I didn't find that when I was a teen. I'm just barely scratching the surface on something I'm passionate about myself. But I'm 41, it takes a long
Trent,
time.
it's about time. Come on, dude.
Seriously.
Let's go.
And it's like the analogy of popcorn. Not all kernels pop at the same time. Hey,
So
some
true.
kernels come later, some come early.
So
and I'm
true.
going to pop when I'm ready.
So
Just
true.
like everyone else.
Yeah.
But I'll tell you this, man. Like, the most powerful thing that my life coach told me, Laura De Benedetto, author of The 6 Habits, she's been on my podcast, actually. And so I've been working with her for a while, and when I first had my first consult with her, and there's a whole like assessment and questions you answer and stuff to just have her help understand who you are and how you tick and everything. But have you heard of the phrase, a fish climbing a tree trying to be a monkey?
No, I haven't.
You haven't.
But it's very picturesque. I got
Very
it.
picturesque.
Right.
I think it's Einstein. I can't remember. But you can look it up. I believe it's Einstein, but don't quote me on that. But she's like, Trent, you're a fish trying to climb a tree to be a monkey. Because you can see the monkeys and they're all having fun. And they're all swinging from branch to branch. And they're out there doing all these different things. And you're trying to be that monkey, but you're forgetting the fact that you're a fish. And you have this massive ocean to go explore with this, unlimited exploration, color, amazement, opportunities to grow, to learn, to develop, and to connect with all kinds of different fish species. And it was such an amazing and powerful and enlightening moment, because I was like, dang,
Have you scuba
you're
dived?
so true. Yeah, I have. I'm certified.
Okay.
I love scuba diving.
I do too. I used to do quite a bit of it. If you're a fish, there's some beautiful fish.
Oh my
out there.
gosh. Amazing options. But it's so true that a lot of people are trying to become something else that they're not inherently really designed for or are passionate about. And a lot of it comes down to your interests, your skills, and your passions, and the convergence of those. And so I think the key to success, which I'm kind of talking around, is basically know what you're passionate about and follow it.
Absolutely. And, I used to, as I would talk with young people and they would ask me advice about things, and especially in Idaho, I got a lot of this, they grew up there. I want to be a farmer in Idaho. I want to do, well, buying a farm is not cheap.
No,
as you can
especially nowadays.
Right, and making money on the farm is not always that easy. There were some really tough years for an awful lot of people that were there, and I used to tell them, I'd kind of draw a triangle and say, seems to me like in life you have kind of a balance between how much money do you want to make and what kind of lifestyle do you want to live? Where do you want to live? And what do you want to do? And somewhere in there, either you're going to choose one of those as the most important, and that's what you're going to gravitate to, or somewhere you need to create a balance, wherever that is in the middle of the triangle, that makes you satisfied, that you're going to feel like, okay, if I did that, I was a success.
I mean, that works.
Well, that's what I told people.
I mean,
I still believe it, but
it works. I mean, it's not for everyone, but because so many people are unique and different.
But that's what I'm saying is, so you can choose whichever one, whatever you do. Yeah, I don't care where the dot falls in there, but you do have to do something because you have to live. So you have to figure out a way to be able to support yourself.
Absolutely.
Even if you want to be, I don't even know what you call it, a naturalist that's out in the forest surviving on the berries, along with the bears.
You still have to go and hunt and gather and find something to eat and drink and shelter and live with predators and not get eaten, during the night or stung by or bitten by whatever. That's so true though, because life is not easy. You have to put forth effort. You have to put forth energy and thought and planning and strategy, or else you're going to be eaten alive.
And you know what? It's actually a blessing while we look at it, and it's hard when you're doing it. There's a satisfaction that happens, and one thing that's happened is I've gotten older and I don't have to work as hard as I did when I was first starting everything up. I still have to work, but I have a really good person who takes care of the day-to-day stuff that I don't have to do the hands-on day-to-day. If you sit there and you're alone, it's really boring.
Oh, totally.
And not just boring, but depressing. You need to be able to talk to people. You need to have things that you're interested in that you still want to do.
Yeah. I worry about these young kids because, my daughter's 15, right? She had a birthday party the other day, and I couldn't help but notice all the boys, because there was a swim party. So there was a bunch of boys over and a bunch of girls over. But they separated without even knowing it for probably the first hour and a half. And it could be like, you know, boys and girls type of teenage crap. But it was interesting that the boys were off together doing whatever they do, and the girls were off doing whatever they do. But they weren't associating and talking to each other. I mean, it was kind of like that the whole night. And I was talking to some of the other parents. I'm like, wow, like, is this because they're all talking, like everyone's cool and talking to each other behind a screen using a keyboard and texting and, you know, Snapchatting and whatever. But when you get to in front of someone, they don't know how to interact and connect with people. And so I worry about that generation because I don't think they're comfortable with connecting with people in person and having some authentic communication, speaker energy shared with that person. I think they're so used to their devices.
I think that's a really good point. I worry too. You know, that is a blessing and a curse of our society. We have the tools, which are great tools, but you need to be able to have interactions with people. And, you know, I watch a lot of shows of crime and you know, fraud and all kinds of stuff. And when people can hide behind a screen, there is so much lying, even young people. You know, if you look at their lives of what they put out there on a Facebook or something else, they're all, you know, amazing. If you look at young people of what they were doing, well, this morning before lunch, I climbed Mount Everest. Then I went for a jog on the beach, and then I went for a brisk swim, you know, or whatever.
It's fake. It's
right.
not fake.
Right.
It's a facade that you're putting out there.
Exactly.
And you can invent whatever you want.
Right. And that's what's so difficult. You know, I think there's a lot to be said for learning how to learn about people, to learn about yourself, to be able to respect yourself, to be able to respect other people, and to be happy with what you have.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, I was at the beach the other day, chilling with my brother-in-law, and I had a couple kids with me.
I have a great question for you.
Yeah, go ahead.
Where in Arizona is the beach?
I was in Southern California.
Oh, okay. Just checking.
There is no beach in Arizona.
I was getting excited.
Unless we're at the river or the lake.
Right, okay.
But I was in Southern California.
Okay.
And I was hanging out with my brother-in-law. I say the other day, but it's like probably been a couple years now.
Yeah, that was the other day.
But we were hanging out, sitting on the beach. There's quite a few people around us. I think it was Balboa, or I think it was, it's where Las Brisas is, that really good Mexican food. Laguna.
Yeah, Laguna Beach.
So we were hanging out Laguna.
I know it really well. I used to go scuba diving there.
I love Las Brisas.
And I
scuba dive there too.
Yeah.
Really cool. I remember the last time I went, actually, it was night diving, and we had bioluminescence, and it was just like amazing to me. It was like out of this world. But anyways, we're hanging out at this beach, right? And we're hanging out. Our kids are just going in and out of the water, and we see this girl come up with this guy, and you know, they sit down kind of near us, and I don't know what their relationship was. We didn't talk to him, but she started taking off her clothes. She started getting into her bikini, doing her hair, kind of putting on her glasses, and you know, like just getting ready. Whipped out her phone, did a bunch of selfies, right? Like perfect, picturesque selfies, like trying to minimize who's in the background and everything.
Right.
And then, I kid you not, 30 seconds later, they pack up and leave. And I'm like, you know, that is what is wrong with our society. People are going out and creating the illusion of luxury, chilling at the beach, you know, Lamborghinis in the background, I'm on a jet, whatever, but it's all fake. It's a facade.
Newport Beach was a lot that way, a lot in Orange County when I was an attorney down there. And there were a lot of people that put on the show. It was one of the capitals of the United States of fraud.
Oh, I believe it.
There were people who were legitimate that really had it. You know, the people that we worked with at my law firm and that I had, they were real people that really did it. But man, there were so many other people just putting on the facade of everything. And yeah, you're right. It is interesting. You know, they think that's going to get them happiness, and it doesn't.
Oh no, it doesn't. But so many people on the receiving end
see it.
The receiving end see that. So that person could be somewhat like, let's call it an influencer on TikTok or something.
Yeah.
And you've got all these 15-year-olds, 12-year-olds, whatever age kids out there subscribing to that person. And they're like, oh, she's at the beach chilling. She's probably been at the beach all day hanging out with her massive friends and blah, 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 you know, private beach, whatever, or jet or car. And it's like, it's fake though. Yeah. It's not real. And so these people are developing this subconscious expectation of social performance or achievement that is unrealistic. You can't achieve that. You can't keep up with Photoshop.
You're right.
There's no way. Sports Illustrated's got that figured out. Yeah. You can't keep up and compete with Photoshop.
Yep, absolutely. Yeah, I agree with you that those things they're destructive to a person's image somehow, and that's why your question about what success is. You have to define your own success, and maybe define it when you're younger, and you keep on redefining it or refining your definition of success. Somewhere along the way, you have to be happy when you got through with all of it. If you just use one measure like those measures, okay, well, this person had this lifestyle, I don't, therefore I'm not a success. I mean, gosh, you get all these people with suicides, with all kinds of stuff. So I've been around enough, and I'm sure you have. I actually knew a couple of people that thought about committing suicide. I happened to be in the right place at the right time and just felt like I needed to talk to them, and found out later that's what they were contemplating right at that moment. It is scary because these were really good people, and they were people that I knew well. But just exactly what you're saying, this false image that you have let everybody down. You're this, you're a failure, you didn't do that, you didn't, all of these things that they thought were the measure of success, and it's really not. To me, if you have money, if that's your measure of success, fame, all of those things, all that does is increase your ability to do whatever you're doing or to be whatever you are anyway. For example, if you're a jerk, if you're rich or you're famous or whatever, you can be a more influential jerk or a more influential bully. Ooh, there's a really exciting thing for life. If you're somebody who's kind-hearted, who likes serving people, likes helping, dislikes doing good, enjoys some of the other things, then it gives you the opportunity to do those. Yeah. But it doesn't change. It's not the measure of any success, really.
It's not.
At least in my mind.
I agree with you. Money doesn't define success. Many people have a lot of money, but are unsuccessful in every aspect of life except the size of their bank account.
Or fame, or anything else.
Or fame. Yeah. Or achievement, or cars in the driveway or garage, or size of pool, or watch, or ring, or whatever. I think what comes down to it is who did you impact? Who did you help change? Who did you connect with? Who did you inspire? Who did you help? I think that is what matters, because we're losing sight in our society of the need to help each other, just to show love, just to be there for people, just to connect and, help each other out, be an ear for someone who's struggling. If you can't do that and you're becoming successful according to your own construct and your own expectations in a silo, but not helping other people, I don't know if you can call that success. I don't think it's success.
It's not my definition of success.
It's not my definition.
Yeah. One of the great things that I really enjoyed about law is you get to see some backstories. So I saw some people I had a really dear friend that was probably my wealthiest client. You would never know if you saw him in a Kmart or whatever, or Walmart or wherever, you would never know that this guy had any money, when in fact he probably owned that particular store and a ton of other ones of the buildings and all of the other stuff. He drove a beat up old Datsun. But I got to get behind the scenes, and I found out that with pretty much anybody in life, I don't care how successful or how you measured that you are, everybody has a challenge.
Oh, totally.
Nobody gets away with, this picture perfect life that everybody tries to put out there today. People have health problems. People have problems with their children that really, tear at your heartstrings.
Couldn't agree anymore.
Have problems with love. They have problems, financial problems, all of those things. And life is a pretty great equalizer despite whatever facade they're putting on.
Totally agree with you. Totally agree.
I am so glad that you agree with me.
I agree
This
with
has
you, Greg.
been like the most amazing thing, Trent.
Is this helping your ego?
It
helping
is.
your confidence?
It is. It is.
I totally agree with you. And if I didn't agree with you, I would tell you I don't agree with you. But the reason why I agree with you is because I've gone through my own challenges and problems in life, especially the last few years. I would say the last 12 months. It's been horrible. And I'll tell you that most of the time people go through things that other people are not aware of. They're not familiar and they don't know the extent of other people's challenges.
That is so true.
And so because people tend to hide it and hold it in. And I've come to the realization that like, I'm not going to do that anymore. I'm just going to be open with my friends and family and be like, yeah, I'm struggling today because of X, Y, and Z, or this issue, or my mom was talking to me about something the other day. And I think it was actually yesterday. And I was like, you know, I don't want to talk about that. It's depressing. It's sad. It's making me go to a dark place. Like, it's unnecessary. We don't need to talk about this. Let's just move on. And she's like, you're right. You know, you're right. And I'm glad you said something because some people are not aware of what other people go through and what could be triggering to them and hitting their emotions. But I'll tell you, like, a friend of mine was on the podcast and it was a couple of years ago now, but I remember him saying, when I first moved here, I really envied you. And I'm like, why would you envy me? He's like, oh, well, he listed off all these things. I'm like, dude, if you only knew, man, like, if you only knew what I have to deal with and some of the struggles I've had with not just myself, but my family and, you know, marriage and, you know, just a lot of different things, you wouldn't envy me. You probably wouldn't want that. You probably wouldn't want to be me.
And the interesting thing is that everybody has them. You know, I've had some pretty tough challenges in life, and I've kind of realized that even though they may have been more difficult than somebody else's, they were less difficult than some other people's.
Yeah.
And whatever the reason, it seems like each of us are prepared for whatever challenges we have.
Yeah.
And we are able to get through them and conquer them eventually in that process. And somehow that is going to help us, or hopefully helps us in the whole thing. But yeah, if you can get the backstories of people, nobody is what they say. I find it interesting, the fascination with the Johnny Depp Amber Heard trial.
Right?
You know, it is just amazing that has become like the entertainment. And some in my own family have got on that. They send me clips of the trial. I haven't followed any of it. I may have watched a total of 5 minutes.
I haven't watched a minute.
Well,
not even. I've only seen headlines.
Yeah, I haven't even seen the headlines. All I've seen is on TV when I'm flipping channels is Johnny Depp Amber Heard, you know, trial. But my daughter did send me some stuff that I've been trying to watch over the weekend. Having been in court and seeing some of it's kind of boring because it's not a really efficient way to get a story out there in an entertaining way.
No.
You know, there is entertainment, and I can see things that maybe some other people don't. But it is interesting that that's what everybody wants to know. Well, there's two people who on the surface have it all.
Why? The biggest question I have about this, and it's not just them, but it's like everyone else too, that everyone does have issues and challenges and struggles. And this one just happens to be hitting the limelight. But why is it hitting the limelight? Like, what's not being covered? You know, what's not being put out there for people to focus on? Why is this being pushed out so much? And it was Elon Musk with buying Twitter and then not buying Twitter, and then, you know, you love him, you hate him, media can't make up their mind. But now all of a sudden we're on this Johnny Depp trial, and it just seems to be hitting everyone. Why?
Well, because I haven't watched it, I can't really answer that.
Yeah, I know,
but I'll tell you, I think part of it is that we're so hungry for anything else other than having to engage in all this horrific political stuff where I don't care what side of the fence you're on. It's a fight.
Oh, totally.
You know, conflict creates bad feelings. Conflict drives away the good in everybody. Doesn't mean that you have to agree with everybody, but to have the conflict about it, as opposed to being able to accept and allow people in their freedom to do what they want. The problem is people want to force people to do their way. They're unwilling to let them have their freedom, to let everybody have their freedom. Freedom works when you can do what you want to do as long as it doesn't interfere with somebody else's freedom. That's where I think success really happens in the world. We're not in that world today.
No.
people are selfishly looking for power and control and money, and so they're using select things to create a conflict that, just churns everything up. And I think most people are tired of it. They would rather watch Johnny Depp and Amber Heard.
And even then, it's creating divisiveness because you got
good point.
You got the people that are for Amber and the people that are for Johnny, and you got people debating now on social media. Heck, I made a comment on social media and I got attacked, and I was like, it's just another divisiveness technique. They're just trying to keep everyone divided and fighting each other.
That's a good point. I hadn't really thought of that.
It's politics, it's the economy, it's Twitter, it's Elon, it's Johnny Depp and Amber. There's so much to debate and argue, and there's a million opinions out there. If you try to appease everyone's opinion, you will never make progress. You'll basically be, you'll be like the grains of sand on a beach, and the micro opinions of every little aspect of life. You're trying to cater to everyone. You'll never have something firm you stand on.
That's right.
But that's got to end. I posted some stuff recently, and people were just like debating me on it. I'm like, thanks for your opinion, but I totally disagree with you. We'll disagree, and that's fine, but thanks for sharing your opinion. Mine's contrary to yours.
It's like I say, it's trying to force people into some other's belief.
Yeah.
Look, I think it's interesting to read what people think. I am not a social media person. That's just me, partly because I'm old school and partly because I've been a lawyer, and I know that the first place you go, if there's ever any issue that you want to find out about somebody, start looking on social media. So, there are some of that, but I would rather deal with the real people, and none of that's really real. But it's interesting to read people's opinion, and sometimes it helps me with my opinion. I love playing the devil's advocate. When I write my law papers and things, I try to play devil's advocate. When I write, I try to see if in my writing I convinced myself. Are we done?
No. I just got a text from Christy, and I was like, all right, do I need to, it's been a couple texts now. It's been vibrating. I'm like, all right, is it something blowing up? But looks like it's not a non-issue.
Okay.
Keep going. But we can be done if you want. I do have to end it probably in about 20 minutes at the latest, but we can keep going.
It's up to you. It's your podcast.
Hey, man, I'm all about just going with the flow. I'm not, in the past, I've been limited to an hour, and I'm not going to do that anymore. I'm just going to talk until the conversation dies out.
Well, people on the other side watching it may die out.
And let them die out. If they don't want to stay until the end, then they're not my biggest fan, and, who cares?
Or my biggest fan.
Or your biggest fan, Greg.
Exactly.
If they don't care about what we're saying and talking about, then shut it off and move on to the next podcast.
Exactly.
But, I think I don't want to be beholden to a clock. I don't even have any clocks in here. I don't, except my watch and my phone and my computer, that's off, but that's it. I don't really care.
Other than the 7 clocks that I have.
Other than the 7 I have around here. I don't have any clocks.
Right.
No, I think it's interesting, though. It seems like people are forgetting about what really matters and where value and stability is emotionally and relationships, and they're focusing on the insignificant things in life.
Don't you think that's intentional?
Totally.
From people who have, including from political leaders and others. They have an agenda, and that's the way to make it happen.
Totally.
You get people to focus on the inconsequential and not notice. It's the magician's trick.
Right.
Look at this while I'm doing all of this other stuff, or all of this other stuff is being taken away from you, or I'm destroying everything else.
I couldn't help but notice and think about exactly what you just said at the gas station the other day. I don't want to get political, but I paid $5.89. And I go, wait a minute. 2 years ago, roughly, I paid $2.50. And then everything else has gone up, right? And I'm like, we're all distracted by all these different things going on, but we're forgetting the fact that there is a political influence here.
Oh, absolutely.
And then I went back to Google and I was like, all right, I want to see the price of gas per president, like a chart.
Oh, interesting.
And I was like, all right, so I went back 20 years and looked at the price of gas by president. And there's a drastic shift every political party that goes in, whether they're Republican or Democrat. And I'm
Really?
like, well, that's interesting.
I'm not surprised, but it is interesting. I've never looked at that chart or even
But
thought
meanwhile,
about it.
we're all distracted. We're all, stressed. We're worried about Amber and Johnny Depp. We're worried about, Putin, and we're worried about China and, not breast milk.
Baby formula.
Baby formula. We're worried about the price of whatever going up. Worried about debating with whoever on Facebook. But meanwhile, the gas prices have more than doubled in 2 years. Why are we not protesting? Why are we not collectively as a country saying, let's stop buying gas and tell them this is enough? Because you know what happened in the Middle East? It was just 3 weeks ago. The biggest oil company just became wealthier than Apple.
I didn't hear that.
Yeah, it's in
Interesting.
UAE. They're located in UAE. And they just became the largest, most valuable company on planet, more than Apple now. They just passed them. And their profits, quarter over quarter, year over year, 82% up. So what's causing the price increase if the cost of production hasn't increased, but the cost of production has stayed relative and the cost or the total revenue has gone up 82%, but cost to produce hasn't gone up. So therefore, they're just raising the price.
Well, you know the answer to that as well as anybody. When you cut off supply, so we have gas, and I don't have any problem. I just had this discussion with another attorney friend in California like a month ago. He was saying, yeah, I'm so happy about all of this. We need to be doing electric cars. Well, I have a pretty good solar system on my house. I don't have any problem with solar. But people need to be honest about what's going on.
Yeah.
The truth is, I have no problem with electricity, but guess what? You got to produce electricity. How are you going to produce it? Coal.
Hydrothermal.
Yeah, water, exactly. Nuclear.
Electric, sorry.
Right, yeah, well, you're there. With nuclear, those are really your choices. So you have fossil fuels that you're so opposed against, and everybody has to do it. And they're saying, well, just stop using gas. Okay, I don't mind doing that. Give me an alternative. Right now, the alternative is to change your life or don't have a life. Don't go to work. Don't heat your house. And they're saying, well, it's only gas for a car. No, how many houses are heated with gas?
Yeah.
Versus electricity. And even if you have electricity, like on my solar panels, guess how much electricity they're going to heat at night or produce the heat at night? Zero. Yeah, they don't work. And you can bank. I got a battery that I'm trying out, and I'll probably get some more. But all of the things have minerals in them, and the mining, everything else, none of them are green, and none of them are, without their issues. So whether you're opposed to nuclear, whatever it is, if you want to choose electricity, fine. Give us 50 years or whatever time. Let's gradually work into this, make it so people have an incentive to be able to do it, not by making their lives so they can't live. All that's happening right now is it's making it so families and the people who have to drive to work can't drive to work.
Can't drive. They can't afford it.
Oh, that's really genius. So the people who need to heat their house can't heat their house. You know what I saw in Russia? They have all the buildings that were there, and when it's time for air conditioning, you get one temperature. It's air conditioning for the building. When the heat is on, you get one temperature. Fortunately, I like heat. I was there in the winter, and it was nice and toasty warm in the buildings. But, that's really their solution. To me, that's no solution.
No, it takes away the individual. You might as well put rats in a cage.
Yeah, exactly.
Sometimes I feel like we are becoming rats in a cage. It's the illusion of freedom. It's the illusion of optionality. But in reality, you don't have a lot of options. You are stuck to paying these prices. You are beholding upon someone else who tells you what you're going to pay and how much this will cost and the availability of these products. And then you're going to get taxed,
It's the bait and switch that we were talking about earlier. So you focus on this, whether you believe in climate. I think everybody believes in climate change, whether it's man-made climate change and whether it's apocalyptic, is what they say. That, to me, is a wide-open debate that I don't think anybody from the science I see could really prove one way or another. But I forgot where I was going with all that. Anyway.
Bait and switch.
But it is the bait and switch. So you focus on that, and then you take away from all of the other pain that's happening. So people think, oh my gosh, we have to do this. And they don't ever consider all of the other destruction in every other aspect, human lives, minerals, the earth, everything else. We'll focus on one thing, even though we can't solve it.
It's interesting to me that we don't have more nuclear.
Isn't it?
Because it is there's no emissions. None. It is not bad for the economy or for the environment.
Okay, so...
But yet, you go and analyze how much Tesla's costs of and impact to the environment is, all the way down to the rubber and the bolts on the wheels.
Right.
You go and analyze all of that. The impact to the environment is greater than a combustion engine vehicle because of what's going into the batteries and the disposal of those batteries and the electricity that's being generated to charge those vehicles, right? Forget all that. Why do we not have more nuclear? Why is it that nuclear plants in Europe are being shut down over the last 15 years?
You know what? Those are great questions. I lived in San Clemente, California, so San Onofre was right there with the nuclear power plant.
Yeah, they shut it down.
Yeah.
Stupidest thing in the world.
You know, hey, we live...
Why?
Yeah, exactly.
Free energy.
I'm not saying that...
Clean energy.
I'm not saying that you don't need some controls and things on it to make sure that you don't have, catastrophic disasters from it. But I think people looked at it and said, because of the atomic bomb, because of all of the hydrogen bomb, all of those things, oh my gosh, this is something different, when it doesn't have to be.
Why not put a nuclear plant in the middle of a desert?
Right.
And run massive cables or whatever straight to the nearest city? Why do you have to build it in the Fukushima around a city, or San Onofre, California, next to all the beaches in Southern California? Why not go in the middle of Nevada or Arizona? If you've driven to Southern California, you know there's a lot of open space between Phoenix and LA.
There is a lot.
Why not build a couple nuclear plants in the middle of nowhere?
Exactly.
I don't understand it.
Yeah, and then if you have something happen, you have an opportunity to contain it, and it's an area where nobody really cares.
Non-populated area.
Right.
You got workers that go in, maybe a couple not bunkers. What are they called? Barracks, like living quarters. You go out for a few days and do your shift and then go back home. You can give kind of like temporary living for the workers, or accommodations is what I was thinking of. But that's it. What else do you need? We build massive roads. Why can't you build a massive cable to Southern California and disperse out the energy?
Of course they could. I probably have a little different view. Not you probably have the same view, but I grew up in Idaho Falls, where there was it's a test site for nuclear things that were going on. At that time, my dad moved there as an engineer to work for what was known as the Atomic Energy Commission. Now it's a whole bunch of other fancy names that hide the fact that that's what they're doing. But, one of my dad's jobs was as a structural engineer, was with a whole team of, a gazillion engineers to make sure that the reactors were safe, that structurally they would contain all of the potential damages that were there. And I remember there was an accident that happened where there were a few people that died from being overexposed within those reactors. It wasn't anything that escaped or anywhere else. Sad case. And, they had to take the people that put them in lead-lined coffins and took them out in the middle of the desert.
Right.
But we grew up around it, and it wasn't anything to fear.
Well, how many people died mining coal?
Exactly.
How many people develop long-term, chronic, pervasive health issues as a result of being in the coal industry?
Well, even just look at it. So how many nuclear submarines are there? How many nuclear submarine accidents have there been because the reactor blew up?
Right.
Why
do we not have many nuclear power banks buried under the ground by half a mile that power sub-communities like Meridian, where we live here in Queen Creek? Why not have a nuclear small device that powers this community buried under the ground, 1,000 feet?
I couldn't agree more. There is so much technology that could be done. You go back to the Men Who Bailed America. I don't know if you've watched any of those programs on TV. Some of them, and I give credit to those people. They were visionaries. They were hard workers. They were very genius about a lot of things that they did. But like anything else, there got to be a time where they said, we need to have control, and took control of the politics. We're in the same thing today.
Same thing. I think it comes down to power.
Yeah,
it comes down to power and money.
It does.
The oil industry is very, very powerful.
Absolutely.
They won't like me talking about this on this podcast if they got it. But the good thing no one listens to it. So,
So you're saying, well, I don't have anything against the oil. To me, like
I don't either. But you need to add other options.
Right. To me, exactly.
Let the oil companies go and be the trailblazers on nuclear tech. Why are they not innovating tech, using all that wealth to go and transform the future of energy?
Hello. Exactly. I have been fascinated by some of the things of Tesla. Nikola Tesla.
Yeah.
Nikolai Tesla.
The original Tesla.
Yes. Yeah.
He's amazing.
Yeah. So he had a big tower that could send out AC power with no lines.
With no line, just through the air or the ground, yeah.
That was going to do it free for the whole world.
Do you know why that is? Because the electricity is all around us. You have the electricity in your body.
Well, I could tell you every time I touch my darn cat.
So why are we, it's like bottling water. Like, yes, water is in the river over there. Or I dig down and there's water. Or it rains and I collect it and there's water. But when it comes to electricity, why are we making it so complicated and so expensive for something that is all around us?
Right. And it doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure out that somebody's getting rich and they want control.
Yeah.
They're not looking at it for the sake of humanity. Tesla apparently was. So I heard, and I don't know if this is actually completely accurate, so if I factually mess up a little bit, please give me a little literary license.
You got all the literary license you need.
But I heard that, what's his name? So it's Chase, what's...
J.P. Morgan, Chase?
Yeah, so I think it was J.P. Morgan. He gave him...
He bought the patents or something?
No, I think he gave him $100,000 to build something. And Tesla went out and used it to build one of these towers for the electricity. And J.P. Morgan called the loan and wouldn't give him any more money because he was mad because he wanted control of the electricity. And, it's really interesting. So I don't... I find a lot of things fascinating. I don't preach any of them per se. I hear things that I put into what I call the department. Just kind of, that's interesting.
That is interesting.
Let me think about it. Let's see what comes out in the future. So I've been fascinated by Bob Lazaro. Is that his name?
Bob Lazar.
Yeah, Lazar, right. And this element 115 that he talks about, to me, so I remember going back, so old I am. I remember when he very first came out in like 1989 and hearing some of the stuff. And over the years, it's been just kind of sitting out there, but never really focused on it. It's just been recently that I kind of heard him, and even of more recent things, talking about they have this ability to manipulate gravity and time and space and energy. And it's really easy.
I think it's much easier than we all realize.
I think it is too.
I think there's probably knowledge out there that is like fundamentally just that makes sense, but it's being kept from us, or we are not ever taught it. It's similar to, like, I was watching another documentary about the guy that invented the hydrogen car, and basically, like, several investors, he died, and then the family sold off his patents or his information, and he died under questionable circumstances, but the people that bought...
So is that Billings?
Is it? I don't know his name.
I would be interested in that. So when I was at college...
We're going to have you back on and talk about this whole topic, because we're going to open a whole can of worms on this.
I'd be happy to. So when you decide to do comedians getting Coke instead of coffee, because we don't want to copy Jerry Seinfeld, then I'd be happy to come back on and we can... that would be fun. But yeah, it is to me a fascinating topic, and one that, like say, it's in the department. But I really believe that there are laws that are higher than the laws that we currently know, and that some of those laws may very well be that they operate on exactly the opposite of force and selfishness. I don't know how all that works, but just think about it. I know years ago, some people talked to me about frequencies, and you have frequencies that are out there, and they compare them to throwing, like marbles at a fence or snowballs or whatever, different frequencies can match up. Well, I've heard all of my life about get your thoughts out of the gutter, and I never really thought about that till I was thinking about the frequencies, and I was thinking, I wonder if just there are natural laws forget spiritual for a minute, which I attribute some of this to, but just natural laws of the universe, that if we understood them, we could do things. One of those are frequencies. So could people walk through walls if your body was at a frequency that it could mesh and go in with the atoms or particles within a wall?
I've wondered that, and I've looked into it, and it seems like a lot of people have come out with 43 gigahertz or 43 hertz frequency as like the soul healing frequency.
Really?
And there's a lot of, you can go on Apple and look up the 43 hertz.
And do we have this? Can I take notes?
You can watch this episode and share it with all your friends and listen to it.
I would be happy to.
But honestly, there is something to that, I think, because your cells, my cells, all of our cells and molecules are vibrating at a frequency currently. As
Absolutely.
We say, all matter is vibrating at a frequency, and all cellular structures, every object, physical, that is made up of those cells are vibrating. I learned that in basic science classes, right?
And
they're vibrating, harmonizing.
That's something I had never thought about. And, going back to, okay, you have really coarse thoughts. You have refined thoughts.
Yeah.
I'm just like, seriously, on that much of a level, could
That's
it really
cool.
be part of the frequencies and that they put us in tune with something different? You have those little tuning fork things. So what frequency was that? I need to go see if I can put it in my water.
I think it's 43. Let me look up my... I was listening to it the other day.
You give me a new idea. I can be a rich man after I leave your podcast, Trent. This is fantastic.
I think you're going to... If you convert this to some kind of water tech and it allows your like buyers and whatever to like somehow be healed. Oh, it's 432 hertz. So 432 Hz. So 432 Hz is what you want. And that is like, there's tons of albums out there. It's like the DNA and chakra healing, Miracle Tones. There's 528 hertz, Sounds of the Universe, 432, REM Sleep Hertz, 432. And there's so many albums out there. And if you just turn up your speakers and you listen to some of these 432 sounds, it's pretty amazing, dude. Especially if you start meditating and pondering and closing your eyes and just thinking. There's something to it, because you're right. Frequencies, the certain type of frequencies can actually do some pretty good things to your body. I don't get it. I don't understand it. I don't know the science behind it, but there is something there.
People in Sedona believe it.
People in Sedona, yeah, they believe
Absolutely.
it. They also believe in a lot of locations of Sedona being magical and mystical.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've been there. I love Sedona. I think it's just a
beautiful.
Beautiful place to be. By the way, have you ever been on a balloon ride?
Never. I almost took my daughter on a balloon ride.
So we went. I wanted to do it when I was a young lawyer in California, and I had a friend who bought me a ride. He couldn't afford it for two people. He bought me one, and I used to see him going up out of San Diego, and I thought, that looks so peaceful. And somehow it just never happened. I moved and never got to use it. I feel really bad.
Let's go.
For that. But so I went on one in Sedona a year ago. I'm telling you, that was the coolest thing. Initially, I thought, I'll be scared to death. This is freaky. But it is so smooth that you're already up in the air before you even really know that you've left.
That's awesome.
And it is really fun. It's a credible view. It is, to me, I'm like a diehard now, where everywhere I go, I want to go on a balloon ride, because being able to see from there, unlike a helicopter, unlike an airplane, first of all, you're really stable up there. You're not bouncing around or doing all the other stuff. It was really
I got to
really
go.
cool.
You just inspired
me.
me.
Okay, well, let's do it. I'm up for it.
I think we should do it.
I also want to go to a salt room. Have you ever been to a salt room?
No.
So I don't really know what they are, but there's a whole bunch in
salt
Sedona.
room?
Yeah, a whole bunch in Sedona.
It's made out of salt or something?
Yeah, so it's kind of the new thing. You see if you watch on about the gazillion-dollar homes in L.A. and in Beverly Hills stuff. A lot of people are putting those into houses. So basically it's like pink Himalayan salt that they put on a wall that comes in bricks. Yeah. And they build them in all kinds of different sizes.
What's the benefit there?
Apparently both complexion, breathing, health, feeling, all that stuff.
Does it emulate or something change the molecules in the air? Like, what does it do?
Haven't done it yet, so I don't know.
Dude, we need to go check this out.
But I have had some
people... Can we go salt room hopping in Sedona someday?
Well, I'm actually... Yes.
I would love to go.
Yes.
Let's do a guys trip and do salt room hopping.
I'm down.
Instead of like bar hopping and like
that's good.
Vineyard hopping and like hot tub hopping or dance.
That would be really.
Let's
really
go
good.
salt room hopping. Is
So
that cool?
It's actually really good because that's one other thing I'm thinking about putting in my backyard.
A salt room?
Is a salt room.
Okay, we're gonna have to talk. Greg, I need to go.
We may need to.
We're gonna have to have 2.0.
And do another.
We're gonna have to do another one. You just touched on some fascinating topics that I totally am enthusiastic about. We're gonna have to totally dive into that. But either way, I really appreciate you coming and talking.
Well, thank you. As you can tell, I'm interested in a lot of things.
Yeah, you do have a lot more fascination and variety of thought and exploration in your own interests and hobbies than I ever anticipated, just being with your neighbor and talking to you however many times I have. But see, this is why I like getting people on the podcast. You get to know them. You get to see how they think and what other things they're into that you don't ever really get to know unless you sit down and force yourself to record it.
That is true. As I've said, I've gotten to an age where my kids don't want to know what I know. They don't want to hear anymore.
Well, I hope that they listen to this and they'll be like, wow, my dad's fascinating.
That would be great. You fascinate me. That's great.
Awesome, Greg. Thank you very much.
It's been great to be here, Trent.
It's been awesome. Thank you.
You bet.
Hey, thanks for tuning into today's episode. I greatly appreciate your support. If this show is helpful to you and you're learning and you're growing through this amazing content that I'm capturing, then please go ahead and to podcasts, to Spotify, to YouTube, and all the other channels and like, subscribe. Please provide a rating or a comment, and then also share with your friends if you could. I would appreciate it. It helps this show continue to grow, and it helps me be able to attract some truly amazing guests that can come on and give us some great insight, great knowledge, and wisdom that all of us can learn from. Thank you for being a supporter. Thank you for being a listener. I appreciate you, and I appreciate all that you do. Thank you.